That's when old age has crept in. See, this is a big thing. You live on a river. I mean, everybody gets excited, see.
The women want to touch the beard. They want to sit in Papaw's lap. But that's why I have Miss Kay here.
In a nutshell, I would be classified as a baby.
Phil Robertson is the founder of the Duck family of Dynasty has died. He was 79 years old. That's when old age set in. It's cool that you live on a river. And I mean everyone gets excited, the women want to touch the beard. Need to sit on Dad's lap. But that's why I have Miss Kay here in a nutshell. I would be called a since. The Robertson family has a baby boomer been through a lot, and they always dealt with life as a team from the top ups and downs, easy and hard problems, but they were not ready for Phil. The last moments of Robertson and the words he left behind that made his family very sad, the heart right before he took the test. Phil made one last wish, made his wife cry and left his whole family thinking about what did he say and why did it matter. The thought of it makes me feel so much. Join us as we find the honest truth of the last moments of Phil Robertson were like sped up, which is causing issues every part of his body. And he has Alzheimer's in its early stages. So when you put those things together, he's just not going well, he's having a hard time. Phil Robertson's last goodbye to the faithful, known as the father of Duck Dynasty, has died at the age of 79, fight Alzheimer's and other health problems. Things on May 25, 2025, his family told him the good news. Thanks to all of their fans and friends, and hopes that his death marks the end of an amazing trip that left a mark that shaped his family and gave many people ideas. Phil's last moments over the years, the family of Robertson was close to him. Voice getting weaker but still sending a word as Phil Robertson said his last words. The family got together and held on to every. At first, his voice was soft, but the message was clear. He told them not to mourn without hope, Miss Kay said. She cried even though he held her hand. His words were strong and full of hope, brought both pain and comfort even in. Phil told them of his last breath being strong was what he stood for. Love and firm faith. At the same time, Miss Kay had been fighting with her early in 2025, she was having health problems. In the hospital after getting an infection from she fell and has been slowly getting better. Needing care all the way through hard times, one thing stayed the same for them: bond. Since they got married in 1966, they had been in fights and everything in between, but they went through it together no matter whatever life threw at them, their love stayed. Phil Robertson had a big effect on many people. Aside from TV, he was a passionate Christian, was the one who made Duck happen. Commanding officer and a family man who loved as a husband, father, and grandfather. His journey was marked by struggles and victories were written about in the 2023 movie The Blind, as the family gets ready for a special service. They respect him and rely on the love, strength he left behind. Their love story and his faith were what held him together. Everything Phil did made him who he is today. The whole world learned, seeing where he came from helps explain what he went through. That was the worst. The fight with Miss Kay's sad sick and the simple rise of Phil. The journey of Robertson. Phil has been anything but normal from his late teens and early 20s to building a close family and turning into he's had to deal with a lot of well-known tough times. But this one is different. Ahead of going into Miss Kay's, it is necessary to give a heartbreaking report to figure out what made Phil he is now the man of love, faith, and he has been strong enough to get through it. A lot of things before Duck. Commander Phil Robertson, a well-known name, lived a not at all fancy. He grew up in the Vivian, Louisiana's rough backwoods, born in a wooden cabin in the woods as the fifth. He had 7 kids, but his family didn't live with today perks. No power, no indoor for plumbers, it's just hard work, survival, while others had fun with the pleasures of today's world. The Robertsons lived more like it was the 1850s. Phil's folks had a hard time with money. Tough times, but made something real through set on making sure his childhood was not every day. His family rarely went on trips, went into town to get food instead. They lived mostly off the land, getting more food by shooting deer and squirrels, growing and going fishing animal parts. In his book Happy Happy Happy, he had fond memories of those times and often talked about how happiness wasn't about material things or modern, not about ease, but about strength that he can change and the strong bond that today, a family shared that very log house. In the space between Vivian and Rustin still stands. It will always be a reminder of the strength of the Robertson family and self-reliance that his cousin still had. Nathan Hale, Phil Robertson wasn't just the sports he was good at, he stood out in high school sports like football, baseball, and track school for his skills on the field. A free ride to Louisiana Tech, by where he took the quarterback who started place in the late 1960s, and get this, who else but Terry as the backup. Quarterback Bradshaw will be in the Hall of Famer, but Phil wasn't into sports. His time at Louisiana Tech led him to make plans for a much bigger trip, which led to fame, problems, and the family history that shaped the Robertson family. Phil's relationship put him to the test. Want to be free and love the wild, they set the stage for the life they made it possible for that choice. That choice was Ducks over Bucks. Shaped not only his future but also whole legacy. Phil picks Ducks, not Bucks. A lot of people thought Phil Robertson had what it took to play football professionally, but his heart was set on something else. Hunting was his drive, and even Terry Bradshaw told them Phil cared more about being in the woods instead of on the field. Phil would show up to practice right on time. From shooting with squirrels wearing tails that stick out of his pockets, and he had duck feathers stuck to his clothes. But no one said anything because he was so good. When the chance to play came up working as a lawyer for the Washington, Phil didn't think twice about it. Turned it down right away. Football was a way for him to get his academics, but shooting was what he really liked. Kay liked high school while she was in love. Years as a dancer and first-time parent, Phil lived by his rules, and they began dating in 1964, and they got married in 1966. But the Phils had a hard childhood. Living a wild life and having problems with using drugs put their relationship to the test. Despite the problems, they stayed connected. Stayed strong after a rough start. Came from the start of one of the most famous houses in the United States, getting ready for the highs and lows they would go through their early years together. Tough times helped a family grow. A story that would one day hook the Could Anyone Have the Nation's attention? Said that a young couple who used to be very rowdy from Louisiana would get up and build a TV company that broke records and shaped pop culture. Duck-breaking records run Duck Dynasty took off like no one else. $80 million was expected to come in from the gate, but that was only the beginning. With sales of goods adding an extra $400 million, the show quickly changed the Robertson family into a well-known name. There was something about Duck Dynasty that record-breaking, crowds coming back, repeating. The end of Season 2, a Christmas show on December 5, 2012 became the most-watched episode of A&E Past, and the speed didn't slow down. When Season 3 started in February 27, 2013, 8.9 million people watched it. Seeing more people than ever before and drawing huge crowds of people of important ages. Duck Dynasty won a lot of awards. April 24, 2013, was the last day of Season 3. 9.6 million people watched, and highest point ever for the network. Of these, 5.6 million were people between the ages of 25 and 54. 5.5 million were between the ages of 18 and 49 at the time, and then Season 4 came out. Went through the roof. The opening brought in 11.88 million people, a huge 37% rise from the start of the previous season. This makes Duck Dynasty the most watched cable TV shows that were not fake. Past the show wasn't just ahead of. In October 2013, TV showed it everywhere. Carolyn Clark is a Yahoo computer trend expert. Shown that Duck Dynasty costumes ranked as one of the biggest pop stars, and culture searches show that the effect went far beyond the screen. By October 17, 2014, Duck Dynasty still drew in a lot of people, an average of 8.3 million people. Audience trends were shown. Online, people noticed some interesting trends. That many of the show's Facebook fans were GOP at the same time. A New York Times study found that it was the most important following in rural places, like in Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, and Texas. Surprisingly, the show got a lot of fans. The show had a lot of fans in the Philippines. A great run, but all of them were great shows that it ended in the end after 11 seasons. The show's March 29th is the last show. 2017. See in the last episode of End of an Era Schwartz and ZZ Top playing sharp, putting on a show for his fans. Farewell to the Robertson family's journey, but the show did have a bit of debate. On December 18, 2013, A&E stated that Phil Robertson indefinite ban after a large talked about in a chat with GQ magazine that the ruling led to primary debates and called attention across the country, adding another even though the show's story has it even with its ups and downs, Duck Dynasty left its mark in the history of TV, breaking records, making a difference in pop culture and a memory that touched millions of fans. The end of Duck Dynasty marked the end of a. Not only did it set the stage for Phil as the most public and angry, the man who helped get into trouble, build a TV business and stay strong as his personal views came into conflict with a watching world, split the storm of trouble. Phil Robertson's GQ interview caused a stir right away. He caused a stir when he said said things about what he saw as wicked actions, like same-sex relationships and other things he does. Words that were deeply rooted in his religion views included talk about the 1 Corinthians, causing a lot of media attention. Close attention. The reaction came quickly. A&E replied with a statement recognizing Phil cares about everyone, but in the end chose to suspend him from Duck Dynasty. That choice set off a huge protest from fans and politicians. Fans, and many of them say that the network was also gone. So far the discussion about the suspension turned into a big flashpoint, getting the attention of the whole country. And there's more to Duck Dynasty's story. In less than 10 days, there was backlash. Not being able to ignore a Facebook page early backing for Phil quickly racked up 1.5 million likes, and well-known politicians Bob Jindal, Sarah Palin, Mikey jumped in to protect himself with as the heat grew, A&E gave up the suspension up before it could change. Duck Dynasty shows Phil wouldn't move from where he was. Views and how they act in public to strengthen his faith and beliefs. Even though the debate caused a lot of trouble, different thoughts on both sides, it also strong backing from social conservatives, business partners and faith groups who thought he would stick with them to his beliefs no matter what. Phil didn't run away from back then. A disagreement in 2015 after getting the Breitbart Award for being a defender of the First Amendment. He went on stage at KPAC and gave a speech that caused instant anger. He made a connection between STDs and to counterculture groups of the past and telling a scary story about an atheist family being beaten up badly to make what he said about moral relativism went viral, making his name known as a controversial person who is adding to the debate around his public image. Phil shaped his open views over time, part of a bigger battle for the soul, putting himself forward as a protector of when it comes to Christian beliefs in the media he saw as becoming more secular. Phil claimed that the writers of Duck Dynasty told the family not to say the name of Jesus, and their last words were meant to keep watchers who aren't Christians from being. To him, this wasn't just a small thing as a production move, it was a more work to block Christian content and stop people from expressing their faith. However, despite the trouble, Phil and his family stayed true to their ideas, that they stayed involved with the Church of Christ on White's Ferry Road and put their faith first in both in private and in public. It looks like Phil's anger over the show's attempts to hide thoughts of faith showed how much he cared about it. Dedicated open love. Could these hardships, especially Miss K's sickness, have helped him understand kindness better, letting him know that love is strong, looks its best when things are calm? Tests of love, hardships, and kindness. Phil Robertson had a very serious moment after thinking about how much Miss K had done for him over the years. They had a lot of hard times together, but love got them through everything. When Miss K got sick, and Phil had to deal with one of the most difficult problems are slowing down, being at home and noticing the little things he used to take for granted. The woman who had always taken care of their family together but now depended on him for everything. A change that made a man who had always he valued his freedom. Al Robertson was also taking the same road to care for his fiancée Lisa after her diagnosis. Both of the men found finding out what love is really about, not just in words but also in small ways, having patience, being kind, and being there when during this time in life, it meant the most. Helped Phil grow in his faith even more. Saw the little things that happen every day of love as signs that God is there, changing what he thought about grace and pledge. Phil and Al talked about a lot how charity isn't about giving someone money, that's why it's important to pay it forward. Doing things that show Jesus' love. For Phil, taking over the job of Miss K had been in charge of cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the house with strength made all the difference in his. From my point of view, it broke down old beliefs, which showed how deeply rooted they worked together. And Miss K was identified with a mysterious lung disease, scar tissue, in 2017, a very bad lung disease that slowly makes it harder to breathe. Say experts think that a mix of genes, and even though natural factors cause it, Miss K stayed because of the bad news. Strong for picking faith and happiness every day. In March 2023, Phil wrote something new on Instagram saying she had been to the hospital but was getting better and ready to go home. Phil also talked about the problems he had in the past with drug abuse and how he once pushed his family away when he was going through the worst. In April, Phil shared another sad story. This is his family story. Daughter-in-law Lisa, who had been found to have breast cancer. Instead of when I asked her why, she flipped the point of view and asked, "Why not me?" She turned her fight into a chance to. Phil praised people who motivate and uplift others. Her faith and strength, calling her thanks to God for being a light for the whole family. Their family is close and deeply because of what they believed, leaned on each other, with Phil and Miss K and their 4 boys, 16 grandkids, and even a great-grandchild, grandchildren and children standing together as a strong lesson of how to be strong, love, and Phil's respect for Lisa's how strong the family was, relied on each other when life's the hardest times could be. The Robertson family has an interesting history, such as children, grandkids, and great-grandchildren. Please explain. Their relationship is still strong. Strong faith and love. Meet the James Robertson of the Robertson clan, also known as Jace Robertson, is Phil's second son. And Miss K is in charge of making them tune your own side. A Duck Commander Duck calls with the team. Jake and he and his wife Missy have 3 kids. Cole and Mia, Reed's oldest child, played there is football and baseball at Whitta Christian. Season 6 of high school ended with graduation. Went to Harding University and got married after season 11. Brighton Thompson went into singing business in Nashville by June 2021. They were going to have their. Cole was the first girl and the second boy. Hit the ball at Whitta Christian with. He got married in season 10 at the same time Mia, their youngest and only my girl, was born with a cleft lip in bed, and by the end of season 9, had gone through 6 surgeries to fix it. Willie Jess Robertson. Phil and Miss K's third boy is in charge of the Ducks. A CEO with a bachelor's degree in health and success of people with attention to business from the Northeast. Willie changed at Louisiana University the family business into a multi-million-dollar business and has 6 kids with his wife Corey and their son John. Luke, the second oldest child, after Rebecca, went to Liberty High School and Whitta Christian High School College. And since the 2019 summer, a Christian has led Camp Chioka. John Luke and I went to summer camp in Louisiana. He married Mary Kate in June 28, 2015. You had a son named John Shepard in October 2019 and had a girl named Ella in April. This is Suddy Robertson, the daughter of Willie and Corey, also went to Whitta. I went to Christian High School with her. There was a graduation show in season 10 today. Suddy is a famous author and speaker. Christian Huff and I have been married since November 25, 2019 and gave birth to her first child on May 11, 2021, Honey James Huff, then a second daughter, Haven, on May 22, 2023. Belle is Willie's youngest daughter. They got engaged when they were 18 years old. Mayo after going out for 6 months and got married to him on June 5, 2021. Rebecca Robertson was the foster child. Willie and Corey's baby was. She was an exchange girl from Taiwan, but it became a beloved real family member after finishing a 2-year Southern fashion internship. She went back to West Monroe from California, where she got married and opened a shop on December 21. John Reed Laughlin was in Mexico 3, 2016. They now have a boy and a daughter, born on January 11, 2019, and a daughter born on December 24, 2021. The story of the Robertson family is based on trust, love, and hope passed down through every group as they say goodbye to Phil Robertson. They have more on hold. They carry more than just memories. What he taught us about being strong, having hope, and being devoted through the tough parts of life were the ideals that he lived by. His last words, they were more than just a goodbye. Love is a reminder of what really counts. Serve with humility and never let go of family and faith. During Phil's time on earth is over, and his soul has taken shape. And gave the Robertson family ideas for years. What do you think of how well the Robertson family can hold strong even after years of fame and trouble and loss of life? Could be Phil Robertson's last words affect how people in the future live? Of his family carry on his